I'd like to show you a simple and easy way using some technology that would make pump selection a little bit easier, a little bit better. So the first app that I'd like to show you is one specifically for a Grundfos type pump system. So on my screen there is a little section here that is the Go. That's on the third one on the very bottom of my screen, and it's basically Grundfos Go. So I'm going to hit that Grundfos Go app. All right, and then it's going to come up to a section where I have to identify the application. So since I'm doing a heating application, I'm just going to do it this way. So I'll click on the heating, and then I have to pick my pump. So in the next application, I want to use a UP series pump, which is, in this case, I want to use a very common UP 1542F pump. So I'm going to use the UPS Series 100 North America pump application. So I'll click on that one, as shown on the very top of my screen. So that's going to be good for UP and UPS pumps. So the UPS pumps would be a 3-speed or a multi-speed type pump application. So then the next one I'm going to choose on, so these are the whole series or family of pumps that would be available, everything from the 50 series, the 26s, and so on and so forth. So there's a whole lot of pumps. If you notice any of these pumps that have a B next to the description here, that particular pump would be a bronze pump. So whether it's a cast or a bronze pump, their performance really should be the same. It's really a matter of the application you're using it and whether you have an oxygen barrier in the piping system or not. So let's go ahead and select UP 15 North America circulating pumps. So that will be this particular one here. And UP 15 North America pump. And the pump that I want to choose, and I'm just going to try to select, is a UP 15-42F pump. So that's the third one in the middle. I'm going to select that one. Now then it's going to bring me to another screen saying, what's your voltage? So I want to use a 115 volt pump, which is probably the most common for most of our applications. And it'll bring me a spec page. It'll bring me all this information about everything from how to install it, or documentation and parts or specifications. So there are so many different things, materials, technical, the maximum head, max flow, things like that. So installation, what some of the maxes would end up being, the pressure rating type things. So really a lot of valuable information that might be going, voltage, wattage, you name it. So there's a whole slew of information that would be fairly valuable. So, but I'm not interested in that right now. I'm more interested in the selection. So what I would like to do is, in my screen that is shown on the very top, I'm going to slide this over, and you'll notice that the second dot was selected here. And so now that brought up the pump curve for that pump. So I'm going to select that, or touch that pump curve in the middle. And then what it's going to do is it's going to bring me the actual pump curve for this system. And so what I want to do in this particular case is I'm going to identify maybe my expected or design flow and pump head that I had the system, or I estimated in my pressure drop calculations. So the Q in this case is another way that they are describing flow rate, or GPM. So in my system, I'm going to touch that, and I'm going to end up identifying that as I want 8 GPM. So in this case, I have a system that I've designed it for 8 gallons a minute. So I'm going to click done. Then I have to put in the amount of head. So that would be your resistance of the system. So I expected to have about 8.4 feet of head is my pressure drop. Now, what you're going to notice here is with using the second pump law, this particular pump curve had actually taken the 8 gallons a minute, and it went to the 8 GPM that I initially put in as my expected flow, and it took that and it applied the 8.4 GPM, and using the second pump law, it plotted my whole system curve all the way from 0. And then, so what we're going to see now is exactly where the system curve will intersect the pump curve to anticipate my expected flow rate. So in this particular example, my feet of head that this pump curve would do for this system is actually going to be 9 feet of head is where it'll actually run at, and it'll do that at roughly about 8, I would say roughly like 8.2 to 8.3 GPM. So even though that I anticipated or I expected 8 gallons a minute, or that was my design calculation, this pump selection, if I would have chose this pump, would really give me almost spot on where I want it to be. So the actual GPM of this operating system for this particular pump, a UP1542F pump, would actually be roughly about 8.2 gallons a minute at 9 feet of head.